What's good with it in the hood with it? Welcome back to the Collective Clips where you already know we get it in. But before we get it in, let's hit that like and subscribe button. Ding. Put your notification bell on all so that way you're directing the direction of the dope content that I'm kicking. And I highly appreciate all the support, man. We're going up on this channel and it's all because of you. And for that, I can say I'm very humbled and very much so appreciative. So gracias. So I was chopping it up with one of my Perro Chato homeboys, one of my Bulldog homeboys just yesterday, man. And we got to conversing. And we were talking about, some of the old school things that we've been involved in. And, I keep it real, man. I treat everybody with respect. I got a lot of respect for the Bulldogs because I've been in the mix with them, right? I know what they're capable of, right? Now with all this shit going on lately, we all seen that video where the Bulldogs, pulled up to that prison, man, and North and South got off on them, moved on them violently and viciously. And it was just crazy. Right? It was crazy, but you got to respect the fact that the Bulldogs held their own. Okay, there was only 10 of them, 8 to 10 of them, and they were put in a situation by administration that, man, I've been put in those situations. I understand coming from the minority group, in prison, the Norteños, that, you go wherever the fuck they're going to send you. And how you handle it is how you handle it. You either get off or they get off on you. But that's just the way we're raised in Northern California, Central Valley, Southern California, period, man. You have that mentality. If you're involved in a gang, you got to do it to the fullest, right? That's just what it is. So anyways, as we're conversing this last night, I told him a story. And I want to tell you guys about how the Bulldogs moved on the Norte and the Sur. It was ugly, man. This was the one time I could say that they got us, right? They got us bad. So trip out, I was in Nellis in the Youth Authority, and I remember that day, Snoop from A. Trey Hoover was my cellie. Yes, they did sell up Northerners with blacks back then, right? We were cellies, man, and I remember just out of the blue, cop came to my door, knocked on the door, was like, hey, get ready, you're rolling it up, you're leaving, you're being transferred. I was like, where am I being transferred to? They can't tell you all that shit, just you're being transferred. So, of course, man, I was kind of happy that I was leaving because it had been 3 years that I've been in Nellis, dwelling in the trenches, man, going through all the north-south issues. But I was adapted there. See, I knew that spot already. I had been there for so long. I knew all the counselors. I knew all the wards, which are inmates or convicts, right? I knew the program. So I kind of didn't want to leave at that point. It was just like, fuck it. If I'm going to do my time, I've been doing it in the gutter. Let's do it in the gutter, right? A fight here and there, a stabbing here and there. I mean, it really ain't shit. When you're young, you got a lot of energy. You're a little bit energetic. So it is what it is. But they were like, you're rolling it up, you're gone, right? So I'm like, all right, cool. So I remember jumping on that bus and they sat me next to the homeboy Boo de Stockton. True story, right? He was from Barrio Central, Stockton. And I remember sitting down like, what's up, homie? Boom, what's up? He was on a different compa. He was on Monroe. I was on Madison at the time. So I remember that day, Spooky from Casitas, from Salas. A lot of you guys know who Spookio is. He was paroling that day from the Youth Authority, right? So I remember seeing him and I was telling the homeboy Boo, like, damn, what's up with Spooky? He said, that fool's paroling. I said, for reals? He also was on Monroe at the time, right? So Boo knew what was up with him. I was like, damn, look at the homie, man. The homie is very well known. If you don't know who Spooky is, I've done several interviews with him. He's actually doing like 100 and something years in prison right now, but is looking at a date pretty soon. Hopefully, man, hopefully the homeboy can get his date and, get on with his life. But I always knew he was going to be a crazy motherfucker. You could just tell, right? He had that fucking North. He had the burning North fire in him. Real talk. So anyways, he's paroling. So I'm looking around and it had been a long time since I'd been on a bus. Since I'd went anywhere. It'd been about 3 years since I'd even been, able to see outside of those gates. So I remember we left. Boom. And I tell Boo, hey, they tell you where you're going? He's like, yeah, my counselor told me I'm going to Preston. So I said, damn, I hope I go to Preston. Now, Preston was the who's who. Who the fuck are you going to be, a gangster or what? That's like where everyone wanted to go. And I ain't going to lie, I was kind of skeptical about the place. Because now I had been in Southern California doing time for so long. Now I'm going to see the northern side of things. Now I'm going to see how the homeboys play, right? Now I'm going to be in my backyard. So I was happy about that. But at the same time, I was skeptical on the situation. Because just because I was getting love down south and it was all good, didn't mean the homeboys were going to have the same type of love for me. But I didn't realize, man, we were going to be labeled rock stars when we got there because everybody knew about us. They knew what the homies were going through in Southern California and the work we were putting in and the riots and the melees and the stabbings and the fights. So when the homeboys found out that a bus from Nellis was coming up with homies, they were happy, right? So I remember getting there to Cedar Lodge, right? Which was the reception part of Preston. And when we got off the bus, there was 4 of us. It was myself, Bull, an Africano, a black dude. I think he was from the Bay Area, Oakland. And there was another Mexicano, which I could tell was a Sureño or a Paisa. You couldn't really tell, right? He was very quiet. And when we got there, they put us in the day room. The day room was very small. I remember it was upstairs. We had to walk up some stairs, go into this building, and it looked way different than what I was used to. And I remember sitting down in their little day room area. There were like hardback chairs, and everybody was down in the dorm. And so what happened was everyone started coming out of the dorm and coming into the day room. They were kind of just looking at us, but the cops were like, leave them guys alone. Those are the fish, the new guys, right? And I was like, what? Motherfucker, I've been down for everyone. Don't be talking about me like that, right? Thought I was all tough and shit. And so they were like, you 4 guys, go to the back. So when we went back to the dorm, there was a couple Norteños, a couple Bulldogs, a couple Southsiders, a couple blacks, a couple whites. They were sitting there. And these were basically kind of like I guess you would call them I don't know, man, the Mac reps of the building, right? I didn't know the word Mac rep till later on in prison, but they were supposedly the Mac reps. So when went back there, there was 2 homeboys from San Jose that were Mac repping for the Norteños. Bubba's the West Side Water Horseshoe, and Turtle from East Side, from Palmas, from East Side, Soho, right? So I remember going back there, and they hit us all up, like, hey, where you from, homie? And I was like, Merced, Norte, Dead End, whatever. They were like, all right, cool, you're a homie. And Bubba's like, I heard about you, bro. Actually, I didn't say Gunnar, I said Skinner, man. That's what they called me back then. He was like, yeah, you came from Nellis, boom, Boo. They hit Boo up. So we're chopping it up with the homies. Well, they hit up the black dude. He was like, Oakland, whatever. He goes with the black dudes. There's no whites there, so they kind of just go to the day room. And the Southsiders are like, hey, where you from, Ese? And the dude's like, Sanger Sureños. When he said that, there was a bulldog named Cho, right? There was a bulldog named Cho and a bulldog named Beto. They were the Mac reps for the dogs, right? And I was tripping because where I had just come from, the dogs were separated from us. You know, it was on and cracking with the dogs. So I kind of looked like, those are Bulldogs? The homies are like, yeah, it's just the way it is here, bro, you know? All right, shit, whatever. And so when Navato said Sanger Sureño, the Bulldog Cho felt some type of way because Sanger is Fresno County. So he said, where you say you're from, dog? And that fool was like, Sanger Sureño. He wasn't scared. He was a little skinny guy, I remember. And he said his thing, and Cho was like, hey, Holmes, this Fresno Bulldogs, man, I'm going to have to see you, right? And the Southsiders was like, hey, kick back, we'll set it up. You know, so I remember the next day, we meet the other homies, everything's cool. I actually had a homeboy from my barrio there, Fernie, right? Fernie boy was there. And I remember, man, his name was Fern Dog, right? But we changed his name to Lucky. He's lucky that we didn't beat the shit out of him for having a name Fern Dog. But we call him Fernie from the hood. Anyway, he was there. I didn't even see him. He was like, damn, what's up, fool? I hadn't seen the homie for a long time, so it was good just to see a familiar face. Anyways, next day we go to this gym. Anyone who's ever been to Preston, they'll tell you it's a big old fucking gym. It's like a dome, like a half dome. It's long. They got everything in there. Weights, boxing equipment, jump ropes for the chirujos. They got just everything you could think of in there, right? There's an upstairs and a downstairs. And they took us to the gym. And so we did a little program or whatever, some circuit training shit. Then they gave us a couple hours to do what we want, and where everyone's playing handball in the gym and just chilling. And this Bulldog Cho, he calls that they had set it up so he can get down with that Southsider. So a few Southsiders go, and there was only like 3 or 4 Southsiders on that compa, right? But they go to the back, man, and these Bulldogs go, and this fool Cho beats the shit out of this dude, right? Smashes him. But Cho was a big boy, man. He had to be 18, 19 years old. This dude had to be just barely 15, 16. He was a little kid, right? Smashed him. That's one thing they don't tell you about the youth authority. You could be a 12, 13-year-old fighting a 21-year-old man. It's what it is. Ain't no one going to say, oh, he's beating up a kid. Nah, hell not. You want to claim and gangbang? You can get it like everyone else, right? So this dude gets smashed. I want those in there like, right? They were smashing him, the dog. So the Southsiders felt like this fool did too much because there was kind of rules, unspoken rules. You don't stomp someone out when they're down. And this Vato Cho was kicking this fool in the face and doing all kinds of crazy shit. So the Southsiders kind of like, hey, bro, what's up? But there wasn't as many of them as there were dogs, right? So they kind of were like at a situation where like they wanted to get off, but they just didn't. That's the truth, right? Not saying that they wouldn't, but they didn't. Because they did a few days later. So anyways, about 3 days later, I remember going to medical. And you would go there because I was receptionist so for Preston. So I remember I went downstairs. They took me, the Africano. There was a couple white dudes that had rolled up a couple days later. And my homeboy Boo stood back, right? They just didn't call his name. And when we went to medical, it kicked off. It kicked off between the Northerners and the Bay Area Blacks. They were playing spades, dominoes together. A black dude stepped on a Norteño's foot. Didn't say dispensa, didn't say excuse me. The Norteño fired on him. The blacks got off and they had a little melee, right? So when we got back to the building, this shit happened. I remember the alarm going off, like, what the fuck's going on? Didn't know where it was going on. You got to remember, I'm still new to this institution, so I'm trying to figure the shit out, figure the game out. They're like, hey, it's going down on Cedar. I'm like, oh shit, maybe the homies got off with the Southerners. That's all I'm thinking, or the Dogs. But it was really Black and North that got off. True story. So now, when I get back to homeboy Boo, my homeboy from my neighborhood, a few homies, like the majority of the homies are gone. There's only like me, Bubba. I remember Turtle got snatched up in that. There was just like maybe 5 or 6 of us left. The Sureños were there. The Dogs were there because they weren't involved, right? So now motherfuckers start peacocking their chests out a little bit because now the Norteños, we're not as deep, right? But we consider Preston ours. So we're not tripping. You got to go to school, motherfucker. So you got to catch the blues. So it is what it is. You can get off now, but later on, homie, we're going to do our thing. So what happens is nothing happens, right? Everything's cool. Well, the Southsiders have been plotting on these Dogs. So the Southerners actually came and got at us. They're like, hey, you guys back the Bulldogs up? We're like, oh, hell nah, right? They're on their own. We don't even like them fools. So they're like, hey, we're going to do our thing, man. On the way to Chow, we're going to get off. You know, this has nothing to do with you guys. So we're like, cool. Well, we had a young homie that had just rolled up from Owacha. Owacha's OH close. And he rolled up, and I guess in OH close, the Bulldogs and Norteños were still running together at that point. They were still fucking with each other. Now, you got to understand, I came from Nellis where when the split happened between Bulldogs and Norteños, it really happened. And like I said, all the Bulldogs were basically in Taft. They were in the hole. They would get there and either get off real fast and get moved to Taft and stay with their homeboys. Or, you know, that's just where the administration put them. They were not, I guess they were kind of like segregating them from us, but it wasn't because they were scared. That's just where they put the Dogs, right? So I was already used to fucking, it could be on with the Dogs at any point in time. That was what I was used to. And everyone was coming from different places, but I guess in OH close, Bulldogs and Norteños were still rocking together at that point, right? So we didn't know that this homeboy had a lot of love for the Dogs. He was actually from Fresno County. He just was a Norteño, right? So later on in life, he ended up becoming a Dog, right? So, but anyways, that's how a lot of the Norteños from Fresno County, not all of them, there's still some righteous ones out of West Side, West Fresno Norte, but a lot of the fucking Norteño hoods and a lot of the Northerners that were from Fresno flipped and they turned Dog, right? And I can understand why. That's all there is there. So anyways, the Southsiders come up to us like, woo. And I remember the homeboy was over there playing spades with some white dudes or whatever. And he didn't hear the conversation. And the homie, Bubba's was like, shh, do what you got to do. You know what I mean? We ain't tripping. That ain't nothing to do with us. So on the way to Chow, used to walk down the hill to go to the Chow Hall, right? Southsiders got off on the Dogs. Boom, boom, boom. And that fool Cho was knocking fucking Southern. He was a big dude. Boom, boom, boom. But they were on him, man. A couple more Southerners had rolled up. They were actually deeper than the Dogs. There was like 4 or 5 Dogs and like 7 or 8 Southerners. So they were giving them the business, right? And the homie got involved. And we just laid it down. It was none of our business. You know, when it's not your group's business, unless someone swings at you or poses a threat, you just lay it out. You know, down, shit, quick, right? That ain't nothing to do with us. You didn't see the Bulldogs or Southsiders getting involved when we were fighting with the Blacks, right? So boom, we're down. And of course, man, I know you guys are like, did you retaliate against the Blacks? Nah, because we're the ones that kicked it off. It was on them to retaliate. And they took all the Bay Area Blacks and put them in the oil because they thought, which we were going to get off on the rest of them. They took them all out of there. And so they brought new Blacks. It wasn't their fault. It all got worked out in the end eventually. So anyways, we lay it down. The homeboy gets involved. That means all of us got to get involved. So we all jump up. We start slinging them with Dogs and Southsiders, right? So now it's every group going at it. The cop doesn't know what the fuck to do. I remember it was a cop. His name was Ferguson, right? Old school. He had Kurt. He had a Jerry Curry. Who was a white dude. Thought he was a black, right? He was a trip. So he's like, get down, motherfuckers. Get down. He's macing everyone. We're getting off. This was my first little melee with Dogs and Southsiders in Preston, right? So now I thought, okay, bam, I'm baptized, homie. You know, I'm really involved in the game. They took a lot of us to the rack, which is Tamarack. They started investigating and sending us back. You know, they sent all the Norteños back because they came to find out. Someone said it was just between Bulldogs and Southerners. And so they misidentified us. So we got to go back. So now there's no Bulldogs, no Southsiders. Eventually some more roll up. Okay. Now, there was 2 Bulldogs that were involved in that shit. Cho and another one. Right? So they bring them back. And I remember the homeboy gets at him like, hey, bro, You know what I'm saying? Hey, the Spencer, the homie got involved. It wasn't like that. Whoop-de-whoop. They were like, hey, man, you guys knew the Southerners were going to get off on us. That ain't cool, whatever. Say, hey, man, don't talk about it. Just do what you're going to do. There was a lot of talking that used to happen. Just fucking handle your business, right? But they're like, nah, it's cool. Well, about 6 Southsiders roll up one night from LA. They come from a Southern California bus. And as soon as they get there, these motherfuckers, you could tell they're plotting something, right? So, of course, the homie gets at him like, hey, bro, that ain't the way it is up here, man. If you guys want to get off, fucking, let's do it right now. If not, it's cool. They're like, nah, we ain't even tripping. But you could tell they're really tripping, right? Well, the next day after that, 4 Bulldogs roll up. So now you got about 6 Bulldogs, about 8 Southerners, and there's probably about 10 of us because people would come every day, right? And so we're about even Steven. So I ain't gonna lie, man, we're walking to chow and there's a lot of tension. And so when there's a lot of tension, you got to keep your shit on swivel. I've been in the mix in YA. I've been in the mix in prison. When it's going down, it's about to fucking go down, right? So I'm looking at everyone's hands, seeing if they got battery packs, seeing if they got fileros, shanks, fierros. You got to make sure, And I remember at that time, man, I had a lock that I came up on. It was like a fucking broken, rusty ass lock, but I had it on my belt. They used to give us these green belts with the old school belt buckle. Remember the old school belt buckle? You just pull your shit. You get that at the remate. Them ones, the ones where you put fucking XIV or Sud or whatever on. Those belts, right? They were green though. And some were tan, some were green. I had a green one and had a little lock connected to it right there. So I could just pull it off and get with it, right? You got to stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Man, I'm going to tell you right now, I got beat over the head with that lock. As we go to chow, we're in chow, we're eating. Everyone's looking at each other. And I'm not even tripping off the Bulldogs. Not even tripping off them. I guess they had got a wheel off from their homeboys in Tamarack. Like, hey, it's fucking green light on Norte and Sud, right? And so I'm looking at the Southsiders because a lot of them, man, you could tell were with the shenanigans. They had come from like Basel. They had come from Nellis. I recognized one that was in Nellis with me. That was a troublemaker. He's from Hawaiian Gardens, right? So I'm looking at these dudes like, okay, these Southsiders are going to get off, bro. It's only a matter of time. They don't want to be here. And I don't blame them, right? So I'm telling the homies like, man, we might need to get off first. The homies are like, oh, don't even trip, bro. The moment these dudes fucking do anything, we're going to catch them. Little do we know the Bulldogs are having the same conversation at the other table. Like, hey, we're going to smash all these dudes. So everyone's plotting on everyone. The blacks are like, these essays got knives. They're crazy, right? Whites, they were irrelevant at this point. There wasn't very many of them, right? There was like 3 or 4 of them. So that day, nothing happens. And one of my homeboys comes. He's not from my hood, but I grew up with him. And he's white. He's a white dude. I remember that. He pulled up. And it's crazy because he has the same name as Woody, Ryan Wood, right? So I remember he pulls up and the whites approach him like, hey, you a homie, whatever. And he's like, hell no, I'm Norteño, right? And he has a big old wood tatted on his back because that's his last name. And I remember pulling up on him like, hey, fool, what's up? He was older than me. I hadn't seen him since I was a kid, a long, long time ago. So we're all happy to see each other. So I'm like, hey, bro, it's going down today. He said, what? I said, we're gonna move on the Bulldogs, man, and the Sureños, right? And the homie's like, for reals? Psh, all right, fuck it. It is what it is. He had come from NRCC, right? So we go down, put his property away. He don't have very much reception. So we're all going to chow. We're all going to chow, man. And the plan was as soon as we got back to approach, right before we get in the building, we were going to turn around and just get off. Shit. As soon as we came out of that chow hall, I remember a cop saying, what's that? When he said, what's that? He seen a fucking bulldog with a piece. He said, what's that? This is what it is. All you heard was barking. Man, these Bulldogs got off on us in the South, and these motherfuckers were all strapped up. They had battery packs. Now, I remember I was trying to get my motherfucking thing, and they were hitting me with battery packs. I ain't gonna lie, man. I was trying to shake and bake on the motherfucker. I was doing the Heisman Trophy pose. These motherfuckers were like, what been? Right? They were fucking me up. I remember there was a Southerner there. He was a big dude, right? He had this one dog like in the choco. He was trying to choke him. This fool Cho just came out of nowhere and just knocked him. Boom! Now, Cho and Beto, they stood there. They were like Mac reps. So like I said, this was like their compa. New people would come and go, and unless they got involved in something, then they would go. But they usually stood there, right? Always got brought back. It was a trip. Even back then, I was like, why do these motherfuckers, why do they get love? They just had juice like that. Bulldogs fucked us up. They fucked the North and the South up pretty bad, man. There was a gang of motherfuckers stabbed up. I remember luckily they weren't hitting me with knives. They were just battery packing the shit out of me. I'm looking at the homeboy with my head getting bounced. This ain't the way it was supposed to happen. But I was used to melees and riots. A lot of these dudes weren't. They were coming from places where it wasn't really kicking off. A lot of them were from just the reception, NRCC, SRCC. And I'm not sure, the Bulldogs would go to NRCC. But that's just what it was, man. You know, so I've always had an understanding of what the dogs are about, man. You know, they posed a threat. I think in Preston and YA, that was their spot, you know, where they were a threat. I remember after that incident, it kicked off everywhere, man. All the Norteños got off on all the dogs. And there was a dude named Spider. Spider had major hands. He was a dog. He was knocking homies out. I remember everyone wanted to kill that motherfucker, right? But that's just what it was, man. You know, I've come from that era when everybody was about the business. So that's when I see people woofing and shit like, oh, the dogs ain't really with it. That's why they get moved on. Shit, they were moving on everybody, bro. We're talking about them moving on two different groups. The Southerners were like, damn, what's this, right? It was crazy because the Bulldogs are fighting with us. The Southerners can't tell the difference who's who. So they're fighting with Northerners. I seen two Southerners chunking them, right? It was crazy. That's how the shit was. And of course, the blacks were laid out like this. They were like, these essays are different, right? The whites were like, well, Wood, guess we're going to be the only ones drinking coffee. And it was just crazy. With that being said, that's an old school story, man. I'm going to be just dropping bangers all day, man. That's what I told the homeboy. We were laughing. He was like, damn, my dogs fucked you guys up. I was like, hey, don't get too crazy, bro. I'll fuck around and snatch you by your collar through this motherfucking phone. You feel me? But that's old school shit. So this North-South Bulldog situation, this been going on for years, man. Ain't nothing new. You know, do I think the Bulldogs will bow down to North or South? I don't. Not in the slightest, ever. They just don't got it in them. You know, there's going to be isolated incidences where motherfuckers are suckers. From every side. It's what it is, right? But man, I've been in melees with dogs. I'm going to tell you right now, them motherfuckers will poke your eyes out with the spikes around their neck. You got to watch out. They be all barking to, oh, what's up, dog? Like, get you. Hey, motherfucker, go and eat your pedigree, right? We were going at it, right? But I respect my adversary. See, so back then, if you didn't respect someone, you just stepped all over them. If you respected them, you kept your shit on swivel. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Heavy's going to be the head that wears the crown. I'm going to continue to strive, struggle for what I truly believe in, and that's the betterment of all people. This is just a little throwback video from the YA days, but a lot of people have been asking me to do more YA videos, so there you go, man. Respects the gun.